Hi guys, so today you and I are going to talk about companies and getting into a good company. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, your videos are extremely helpful for me to get the perspective of an experienced developer. I'm at a very different stage of my career, namely I'm a new graduate looking for their first job. I would like to know if you have any advice for someone like me related to this topic. I have already tried to go to the prestigious companies and failed, either due to low inexperience or inability to perform in interviews, or both, compared to tests the rest of the candidates. I feel that the most important for me right now is to get experience, so I'm trying to select the best company for that. A lot of people say that it is better to go to a smaller company initially, as they could provide more opportunities to get responsibility due to less bureaucracy and more learning due to the need to wear different hats. On the other hand, the work there could be more sloppy, and also the systems will be by definition at a much lower scale compared to those who would work at a big company, so probably the technical problems will be less interesting too. Do you have any thoughts on this or general advice for someone in my situation? Thank you. Yes, I do. So first assumption here that you need to throw out the window immediately is that due to the scale of the company, your project is going to be at a different scale. That is completely false. It depends on the company. You can work at a startup, and I have worked at a startup with just a few people working there, where our rig, or like the setup that we had for our stack, was at a higher level than at one of the, like, I also worked at some of the biggest companies in the world, like what they had. Much more advanced, much more up to date, all of these sorts of things. And I've always said this, and I will continue saying this, guys: do not equate the brand of a company, or like a company's prestigiousness in the marketplace, with the quality of every single software team that they have. As I said, I've worked with quite a few different types of like large brand companies and different teams and so forth. Some of them are doing absolutely horrendous work, and some of them are working on like super old technology. We're talking, like, the oldest system, at least what I have worked with, that we needed to integrate to, was made in a programming language I didn't even know. I think it was RGB or something like that. I can't even remember. It was one of the IBM from the 70s, one of IBM's mainframe programming languages. And the company is a very prestigious, well, I would say it's a known brand in the marketplace, and so forth and so forth. And so it's the same thing for working at, I'm assuming now you're talking about the FAANG companies or something similar to that. It really comes down to where are you working, because not everybody in a gigantic organization is going to work on the sexiest things and like the most coolest thing, guys. I promise you, there are tons of systems and products that are just internal. For example, classic one is that you have, and I've worked on quite a few of those, guys, like where the product is not exposed to you as a customer to this specific company. It is an internal system that all the internal people are using, and I can tell you from experience that those systems are not nearly, in many cases, as advanced, or some of them are, of course, but a lot of them are not more advanced than a standard CRUD application. I mean, it's like the bar is slightly over your own Hello World to-do app type of thing. That is the level you're talking about. And since we have autonomy in quite a lot of the different companies around the world, their strategy for, well, basically product management and so forth is, hey, developers, do what makes sense. So your tech stack might be just a complete, like, it's a copy paste solution for whatever the first person or the most experienced senior likes. And so they will pick whatever stack they feel comfortable with, because the company has no opinion usually on these things, even though they should, if you ask me, but they don't in many cases. And so where do you think all these legacy systems come from, guys? It comes from the developers. It's not magic. And developers who I think are, well, I think a few things about them, whether you should throw up their hands and say, oh, our system is shit, and I kind of go, yeah, who made it shit? But it was sure as hell not the business requirements who made it shit, because that would be like saying that a vacuum cleaner is shit because the requirement is that it's going to suck dust. So what I suggest to you is that, well, try to focus on what I call a stable company instead of thinking in terms of big company versus small company. Because as I said, like I promise you, there is no correlation here. There are absolutely trends you can see if you, depending on what state this company is in, but mostly it comes down to the management of the company itself. So there is an argument that I make for junior level software developers to go through what I call basic training. Basic training basically means that you need a few years to learn the ropes of doing what's basically a CRUD application type of thing, like I'm not gonna say it, but I hope you understand what I mean when I say standard development. Where if you're a backend developer, basically what that means is you get to work on an API, you get to add some endpoints, you get to write tests, you get to fix your databases and things like that. These basic things that 90% of us are doing. For front-end developers, building like React, Angular, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like an SPA type of thing or something similar. That is sort of the thing that most people are doing now. It's nothing. It doesn't have to be something super advanced. It doesn't have to be anything super cool or trendy or anything like that. It just has to be the sort of stuff that, as I make the analogy to the military, it's basic training. You have to learn how to, set up a tent, make fire, run, do all these things that are just preparation so that you can perform later on and do more advanced things. And we have exactly the same situation. You need some time to just settle into those basics, so you know how to work with Git and version control and things like that, how a deployment works and how a website works and how you debug things and how you do all these sorts of daily things. And then you can, in my opinion, reach for more sexier projects and more advanced things that are more niched, that is not like a standard CRUD application or something like that. And those projects they are in every single company basically, guys. It's the norm. It's the 80%, the 90%, the 99% of the industry, at least when you're doing web. And so when I talk about a stable company, you can find that in a startup and you can find it in a gigantic corporation. The main thing that determines if this is a good stable company for you as a junior is, do they have the funding? Because money is usually there is a factor for money here. If you basically have no funds, then it's probably a risky situation to begin with. But even a small company can have the necessary funds, because you don't have to be like on a Fortune 500 list to have enough money to support a junior software developer, which is the key thing. Do they have the necessary structure to support you? That's the thing that matters, not if it's a big company or a small company. So focus on finding a company where they have enough, where they understand what it means to hire a junior software developer, because the two things that matters is, do they have the money and do they have the culture? In other words, do the managers put reasonable expectations on you? Do they seem to be nice people, welcoming and so forth, and open to helping you and teaching you? And ideally, do you have a more experienced software developer in the team? Because hopefully you're going to work in a team. Usually a junior should avoid, if possible, to work completely in isolation. It can work if you have no other options, but ideally you want a mentor or something like that. These are the things that you should focus on. And you can find that in a FANG company all the way down to a tiny 3-man company, or just a basic consultancy or something like that. It really comes down to, where is the company financially and do they have the right people there? So what I want you to take away from this is that if you are looking for your first job or something like that, don't try to figure out the market. I promise you won't. You don't have the experience, and don't listen to all these various people who say that big companies are better, they're worse, small companies are better, they're worse, and so forth and so forth. Like everybody will have a generalized idea of what type of business that they want to be involved in. And what I usually tell people is that in the beginning, when you are a junior software developer, don't focus so much on your specific company or the specific industry you're getting into, unless that is a very important thing for you. If you really, really want to be like a VR developer or something like that, then yeah, you have to be a little bit more specific. Same thing with game development or things like that. There are industries that are a little bit niched where it's very specialized, but in this case where we're talking about standard web development or something like that, it does not matter all that much where you work, which company it is, because in the beginning anything will be helpful to you. So even if you are not a candidate today for one of those prestigious companies you're looking for, you can become one in the future, but you need to acquire a solid set of skills to do that, and that can happen in basically any company. The only thing you should really know about the company is, number one, do they have enough funding and so forth, so that you can work there without being in a risk position, and do they have the culture? Do they have enough people and the sort of people who will teach you? Like, do you feel like if you wanted to ask a question, because you're going to ask a lot of questions in the beginning, you're not going to be able to do all these things by yourself, are these the sort of people who are going to help you? Are they going to give you a link to a piece of documentation? Are they going to do some pair programming with you? These sorts of things are more interesting, and you can find that in any company. I promise you, you have no idea. It's basically just trial and error here. Try it out and see what happens. Have a great day.